Coming up on Network Africa. Sudan reviews changes by military after October's coup as Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok orders investigation into recent violations against protesters. United Nations Libyan mediator Jan Kubis quits weeks after planned December election. Plus, leaders from South Sudan's 10 states gather in Juba to discuss the peace process in the country. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Layo Adegoki. Let's begin in Sudan, where the Prime Minister has announced the review of all appointments that were made during his detention following last month's coup. Abdallah Hamdok, who was reinstated to his post on Sunday, also ordered an end to the dismissals of officials. When the country's military chief, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, carried out the coup, he dissolved all the country's institutions and sacked many officials, including heads of state media, public companies and banks. The Prime Minister is still without a government after being reinstalled in a controversial deal with the general. Well, state media earlier quoted Mr. Hamdok as saying investigations would be carried out into recent violations against protesters. Many Sudanese have demanded an end to military interference in the running of the country, and they want civilians to be in charge. In Ethiopia, Olympic heroes Haile Gebrselassie and Feyisha Lilesa say they are ready to go to the front line in the war against rebel Tigray forces. Their announcement comes after Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed said he would go to the front to lead the war. Tigrayan rebels say they are advancing towards the capital, Addis Ababa. Germany and France have become the latest countries to advise their citizens to leave Ethiopia amid an escalation in the civil war. In the meantime, tens of thousands of residents in the capital have signed up for defense groups after the rebellious Tigrayan forces threatened to march on to Addis. Presidents Uhuru Kenyatta of Kenya and Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa are calling for an immediate ceasefire and talks in Ethiopia. This comes after the Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed vowed to join his troops in the front line fighting the rebels. Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta spoke alongside South African President Ramaphosa during a two-day state visit on Tuesday to South Africa.
President Kenyatta and I discussed the grave situation in Ethiopia. We expressed our conviction that there is scope for dialogue amongst the warring parties in Ethiopia, and that there is an urgent need for all parties to the conflict to commit to an immediate, indefinite, and negotiated ceasefire and an all-inclusive political dialogue.
Well, as countries advise their citizens to leave Ethiopia because of the security situation, UN spokesperson is talking about out of an abundance of caution that the United Nations is reducing its footprint in the country by temporarily relocating all eligible dependents. Mr. Stefan Dujarric, spokesperson for the UN Secretary General, says the UN will continue to monitor the situation even as it evolves.
Given the security situation in the country and out of an abundance of caution, the United Nations has decided to reduce its footprint in the country by temporarily relocating all eligible dependents. It's important to note that staff will remain in Ethiopia to deliver on our mandates. We will continue to monitor the situation as it evolves, keeping in mind the safety of our staff and the need to continuing to stand and deliver and to continue our operations and support all the people that need our assistance.
United Nations Libya mediator Jan Kubis is stepping down less than a year after he took up the role and a month before planned elections in the country. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres is said to have accepted Mr. Kubis' resignation with regret. The Secretary General is now working for an appropriate replacement so that work can go on as quickly as possible to ensure continuity of leadership. The 15-member UN Security Council, operating by consensus, must approve a new appointment.
Kubis has indeed tendered his resignation to the Secretary General, who has accepted it with regret. The Secretary General is working on an appropriate replacement. We are fully aware of the electoral calendar and are working as quickly as possible to ensure continuity of leadership. I would also add that we continue to have a very strong presence on the ground in Libya, and all of our colleagues there will continue, as they have done, working with Libyan institutions in light of the upcoming elections, not to mention the humanitarian challenges that the Libyan people face.
Following the end of the climate summit in Glasgow, Scotland, it is clear issues surrounding climate change remain on the front burner. Added to this is the drive for greener and smarter cities, with Lagos State here in Nigeria leading the campaign. Nordic countries, already hosts to smarter and greener cities, has put together a two-day conference to introduce companies in Nigeria to foreign investors to replicate same and move Lagos State into the 21st century. Our correspondent Amarachi Ubani reports.
And the gateway for all most of the trade.
They called it speed dating for investors and partners. A hall full of representatives from 60 countries interacting with diplomats and potential partners from Sweden, Finland, Norway and Denmark, who will help Lagos achieve her dream of becoming a greener, smarter city.
To ensure that we get vaccines into Africa.
They narrowed down their focus to renewable energies as Lagos State churns out 13,000 metric tons of waste daily. The state governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, in his opening address, says turning waste to wealth is a major concern.
Following the huge investment we have made in waste management sector, as well as the transformation of our waste management practices over the last 2 years, we have been able to create no fewer than 40,000 direct and indirect jobs within that period. Furthermore, with the advent of recycling and other waste management streams, we envision that we will also be creating additional 6,000 jobs annually.
He also says the state is involved in building Nigeria's largest metropolitan fiber cable network to support internet access to government buildings and public spaces in schools, especially as part of infrastructure to put the state at par with other smart cities around the world.
We're currently building Nigeria's largest metropolitan fiber network anywhere that will provide high-speed internet access for public institutions like schools, hospitals and offices, and also be available for the use in the private sector.
The Nordic countries reiterate messages from their home governments on eagerness to make a success story out of Lagos State.
Lagos has already made very big steps in towards developing the state of Lagos as a smart city. And it also showed there are many opportunities for collaboration and co-creation.
We want to bring Nordic companies together to develop Lagos as a city. Lagos is fantastic, as mentioned today, but it also has huge problems and challenges. And we picked a few areas, that is waste management, energy and greener energy, and sustainable transport.
We have a lot to offer. Denmark is a front runner on the green energy side in particular, but also in terms of waste and wastewater management.
The conversation continues with presentations, panel discussions and a fashion show. Amarachi Ubani, Channel Television News.
The 5th National Governors Forum has opened in South Sudan's capital, Juba. The main aim is to bring together leaders from all 10 states and develop mutual priorities designed to advance the quest for a sustainable peace in the world's youngest nation.
As part of efforts to foster peace and stability in South Sudan, leaders from all states are gathered in Juba to move forward in their goal of achieving peace.
A lot is expected from this particular forum, this governors forum, because it's the first after a civil war. And it is also the first where we have multi-party governors and deputy governors. So the spectrum has changed from the first or from the previous governors forum. And therefore, it would be challenging. The views may not be the same, but since you have a guiding document, which is your framework during this transition, and that is the agreement, the revitalized agreement. And therefore, from this common perspective, our views should be harmonized. So this is important to underline, and I hope you will keep to that.
First Vice President Riek Machar acknowledged the need for progress to be made on implementing all necessary benchmarks contained with the revitalized peace agreement, including establishing local governance structures as well as completing final security arrangements.
The Chief Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, Karim Khan, says cogent and coherent allegations continue to arise from Libya. During his first briefing to the Security Council, Mr. Khan, who succeeded Fatou Bensouda as Chief Prosecutor, hopes his report would set out clear objectives and a roadmap that will give clarity on important matters concerning Libya. The Office of the Prosecutor presents its reports concerning cases in the country in a semi-annual briefing to the UN Council.
Cogent and coherent allegations continue to arise from that land, from that ancient land. The plight of women and children and men is something that requires greater action. This requires new focus from my office. I accept that. An acceleration, a more demonstrable utility of the Office of the Prosecutor, but it also does require, with the greatest of respect, more engagement and more support from this august body that referred the matter to the Office of the Prosecutor in the first place. I hope in my next report I will be able to set out clear objectives and a roadmap that would give clarity on these important matters and would help to more transparently and clearly communicate what is the plan, what are we hoping to do, and how are we hoping to achieve it.
At the outset, Still ahead on the program. The United Nations declares every 7th of July as World Official Day to celebrate the Swahili language. Please stay with us for more details. Welcome back to the program. Nigeria's Minister of Interior, Rauf Aregbesola, has officially rolled out the nation's enhanced e-passport featuring improved security features and extended validity options for users in the United Kingdom. The event took place in the Nigerian High Commission in London. Our London correspondent Juliana Olayinka reports. Please note that the report contains flashing images.
Enhanced e-passport issued at the Nigeria High Commission in London. With improved security features and options to choose between 32 and 64 pages and a 5-year or 10-year validity, The renewed passport was warmly welcomed by community members during an official ceremony overseen by the Honourable Minister of Interior, Rauf Aregbesola, alongside the Nigeria High Commissioner to the United Kingdom, Ambassador Sarafat Tunji Ishola, as well as the Acting Controller General of Immigration, Issa Jere.
I want to assume that most of them would want to take a 10-year valid passport than a 5-year valid passport. And that will reduce the frequency of having to apply for a reissue or a new passport. And we are improving the technology of passport issuance administration generally to a level in which, except for biometric capture, no applicant for Nigerian passport will have to meet anybody physically for that process.
During his tour of the facilities, the Honourable Minister engaged both staff and visitors who were encouraged about the improvements they have witnessed within the mission.
The demand for passports is highest in the UK outside Nigeria. No other nation has the capacity for passport demand that we have here.
As well as providing protection against alterations, the enhanced e-passport will be better protected from physical damage and water substances. Juliana Olayinka, Channels TV News, London.
Well, Juliana joins us now for more on this. Hello, Juliana. Help us understand these new features of improved security and also, extended validity options on this e-passport.
Yeah, good afternoon, Ella. Well, yesterday, as outlined in my report, there was a huge ceremony attended by the Interior Minister, Honourable Rauf Aregbesola, and alongside the High Commissioner, as well as other individuals from the Immigration Service. The new enhanced e-passport will be rolled out of the Nigeria High Commission in London with immediate effect. I think now, finally, for people who are travelling to Nigeria or who want to have their Nigerian passport, but you're living in the United Kingdom, you will have a document that is really in line with international standards. So there are the increased security measures, making it much more difficult for your passport to be using fraudulent means. You wouldn't be able to just create one of these documents easily. It's very, very secure. Lots of people, especially Nigerians that travel very frequently, perhaps your passport may be damaged quite easily and you have to pay quite a high fee and wait quite a long time for that to be resolved. With a passport such as the enhanced e-passport, which was issued yesterday, that won't be the case. It's very thick and firm, and it will make sure that the process to getting a passport is much more reasonable. Also, as well, the validity, which I think is of major concern, especially for frequent flyers. You now will be able to have 64 pages rather than just 32 pages, and there can be a 5-year and 10-year validity.
Well, you've highlighted some of the benefits to Nigerian travelers, especially those who go frequently. How will this, improve travel and immigration ties, perhaps?
Yeah, I think, you saw within my report, there was kind of this walk around the facilities, and the Minister was pretty open with members of the public who lamented some of their concerns. I think even if you're listening in Nigeria, you must have heard about some of the complaints that people living in the United Kingdom have about the mission in the UK. But I do believe that sincerely there has been a change over the past few months. The process seems to be working with a lot more swift. Lots of people are complaining about customer service beforehand. That seems to be getting a little bit better. And of course, if you are having this enhanced e-passport, then the process should be much more easy. However, I must say this is a really important part, which may not have been highlighted within my report. You can only, a major requirement to getting this enhanced e-passport is having a national identification number, NIN. Obviously, very common with our viewers in Nigeria. But if you're living in the UK, you may not have had an opportunity to obtain one. I believe the Nigeria High Commission in London has listed about 17 locations up and down the country where you'll be able to get this national identification number. Once you have this number, you can then apply for one of these enhanced documents. But hopefully, Layo, this will make things more swift. Racketeering, fraud, corruption, all terms, unfortunately, that have been dogged with the Nigeria High Commission in London. No longer, though, and hopefully going forward, especially now that we have this enhanced service and this enhanced document, those subjects will be a thing of the past.
All right then. Thank you, Juliana.
Thanks, Layo.
African heads of state and ministers discussed climate change, the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, and ways to create resilient economies with the use of digital integration during the COMESA's 21st summit. The summit, which was held in Egypt's new administrative capital, brought together presidents of Africa's eastern and southern nations, with some rallying for policy changes and interventions that open borders and encourage foreign investment. The members urged promoting trade among states and using digital transformation as a benchmark for ongoing cooperation. While most people stayed at home as the COVID-19 pandemic ravaged New York, Ghanaian national Paul Ninson sifted through storage containers and struggling bookshops in order to build what he says has become the world's largest collection of African photography books. His collection now consists of more than 30,000 books, and he plans to bring them back to Ghana and open a museum with help from a crowdfunding campaign.
The Queen storage unit is already packed from wall to ceiling with photo books, but Ghanaian New Yorker Paul Nitson still finds space for another stack of vintage National Geographics. The magazines, of which Nitson has every issue dating back 40 years, are a fraction of the 30,000 books he has collected since the COVID-19 pandemic began, all containing images from Africa or taken by photographers of African descent.
My way through photography was just looking at magazines and photography books. Some of these pictures are incredible. Some of these pictures tell stories of places, but mostly sometimes what I wonder is, what if those people in those communities contribute to these stories in a way of self-expression of who they are? Do people in these communities accept how they are being depicted, especially the Africans?
Spread across 16 New York storage units and several other spaces along America's East Coast, Nitson's collection is likely the largest of its kind. Thanks to a successful crowdfunding campaign made popular by the photoblog Humans of New York, Nitson is sending his collection to Ghana's capital, Accra, where he plans to open Africa's largest photography library. Nitson envisions the Dinkin Center, meaning take the lead in his local language, as a museum-cum-learning institution where aspiring African photographers can take workshops, rent equipment, and access studio space.
Pandemic changed us a lot, but for me what happened was that I was constantly emailing people, constantly emailing galleries, collections, private collectors, and telling them my vision and what I want to do. And that is where it led me to massive amount of books. So during pandemic I was in warehouses packing books, I was in people's basement packing books by myself, and that's how I was able to amass a lot of books.
When Friend and Humans of New York founder Brandon Stanson discovered what Nitson was doing, he decided to promote his efforts on the blog alongside a crowdfunding campaign. It raised $1 million in a single day. Nitson has doubled his collection since then, traveling up and down the East Coast in search of new editions. More than 18,000 books have already been shipped to Ghana. The book collector will return to Accra in December, where the books will be kept in a temporary facility, while the Dickens Center, which is still under construction, will hopefully be finished by the end of next year.
And as we end the program today, the United Nations has declared every July 7th as the world's official day to celebrate the Swahili language. The announcement was made on Tuesday at the UN Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization UNESCO headquarters in France. It is the first African language to be recognized by the UN and have its own day of celebration. Swahili is also the only African language to have been officially recognized by the African Union. The language is widely spoken across East Africa and in parts of Central and Southern African countries. And that's it on the program for today. Thank you for watching. I'm Layo Adegoke.